right? Let's get into it. You've seen the pictures. Maybe in an old history book, you see the depictions of us. The poor, huddled masses getting off the ships in New York. The old Victorian cartoons of us looking like angry chimpanzees. And even now, you watch a film set in Ireland. We're not exactly bursting with Hollywood glamour, are we? We're all the character actors. We're either windswept and miserable, or we look like we've been sleeping in a hedge. You've sat there looking at all that, and the question has formed in your mind, why are the Irish ugly? Don't you worry, you're not a bad person. It's a fair question. Why do so many of us look like we've just been startled by a flash photograph? Why do we have the complexion of a damp flannel? Why does the head on half my mates look like a half-used bar of soap? It's a genuine mystery. As an Irishman and a dairyman, which means I'm an obvious exception to this rule since we're all genuine nines and above, I feel it is my duty to explain where we, as a people, went so genetically wrong. Now, before you get your knickers in a twist, let's get the obvious out of the way. There are those among us that are exceptions. You've got Saoirse Ronan. She looks like she was carved out of moonlight, an actual angel. You've this druid. Looks like a beautiful forest god who would write a poem about your jumper. And of course, me. Look at the material. My mom says I'm the spitting image of a young Pierce Brosnan. Love you, ma. But for every Paul Mescal, there are 10,000 Paddies who look like they're permanently trying to remember if they left the cooker on. So what happened? Well, I have a theory. It's not in the history books yet, but it makes perfect sense. It all boils down to two words: the Vikings. Those right skunners. See, back in the day, around 800 AD to be precise, Ireland was class. We were the island of saints and scholars. We were writing the Book of Kells. We were built like brick houses, and we were, it's a known fact, ridiculously good looking. We were all just sitting around on rocks, being Celtic and beautiful. Then these lads showed up. They came in their longboats from Norway and Denmark or wherever. Now, the Vikings themselves, let's be honest, they were built like fridges and had beards full of soup. Not exactly Love Island material. They sailed up the Lagan, they sailed up the Liffey. They came for the gold, they came for the monasteries, but they also came for the hotties. It was a grand 200-year-long heist. Think about it. A Viking raider, Olaf the Dull, lands in Dublin. He sees brother Killian, who's 6'3" with cheekbones that could cut glass. Gets dead jealous and blood eagles the poor bastard. He sees Aoife with the flowing red hair and the perfect teeth. Olaf goes, right, we'll take the gold chalices and her. They systematically stole all our stunners. They kidnapped the tens, bashed the nines, and knocked out the eights. And what did we get left with? We were left with the ones who were too slow to run, the ones who hid in the bog. We were left with Uncle Brian who can wiggle his ears, and the fella who's really good at stacking turf. That's our gene pool. That's what we've been working with for 1,200 years. This is why to this day you go to Sweden or Norway, and everyone is 6'4", blonde, and looks like a model for a high-end knitwear catalogue. They're walking around with our genes. They're built on stolen Irish attractiveness. This is pure scientific fact. I won't be told different. We are the genetic leftovers. It's a national tragedy. And of course, we have to tackle the anti-Irish prejudice from you-know-who. The real reason for this whole ugly Irish thing is a bit darker, a bit more boring, and, well, a bit more English. This is what they were drawing. In the 19th century, when the Irish were starving and forced to emigrate to England and America, the newspapers, especially Punch magazine, needed a way to make us seem less than. It's hard to justify treating people like animals if they look just like you or prettier. So they started this massive propaganda campaign. They drew us as simian, ape-like, drunk, lazy, violent, and, crucially, ugly. And when you hammer that image home for 100 years, it just sticks. It's historical racism, pure and simple. We were just poor, and they decided we must be genetically inferior as well. But here's the real kicker, the final joke. While the English papers were drawing us as stunted little gremlins, an actual survey was done in the 1800s, a proper one by geographers and anthropologists. And what did it find? It found that the Irish, on average, were taller, stronger, and healthier than their English counterparts. Why? Because the English working class at the time were living on absolute muck. It was all gruel and grain slop. Meanwhile, what were we living on? The spud. That's right. The humble potato with a bit of buttermilk is basically a superfood. It's got vitamin C, it's got protein. We were accidentally on the world's most effective health kick. We were a nation of potato fueled athletes. We were, in fact, objectively better looking until, you know, that whole potato based diet became a wee bit of a problem. So, where does that leave us? The definitely true Viking theory, worthy of any scholar's master dissertation. The English propaganda was racist, and the potato fact just makes the famine even sadder. Here's the truth. Are we all Saoirse Ronan? No. But are we those punch cartoons? Absolutely not. We've got character. Our faces tell stories, usually stories about being rained on and having one too many pints of plain, but stories nonetheless. So you can forget all the conspiracies of big England and their Victorian smear campaigns, because at the end of the day, as Garen would say, we're delicious.